Let's talk about how general occult principles can be applied in a tarot reading. I'm going to use the RWS tarot deck to demonstrate, given Waite's strong personal background in Hermeticism, Rosicrucianism, and the Golden Dawn, and how his tarot deck was created specifically for occult uses, whereas in contrast, that wasn't the original intention of the Tarot de Marseille. To be sure, when we say occult principles in tarot, we mean a lot of different esoteric systems of knowledge. We mean the Kabbalah, or even the isolated observance of just tarot and astrology, Neoplatonism, and who are we kidding here? It would arguably be an appropriation if we take it out of the context of Catholicism. Hey, I consider the religion totally a cult. When my mom first came to America and hung out with Catholics, she was like, oh my God, this is white people witchcraft. The first portion of this video is lecture, and at the end you will need a majors-only tarot deck for a guided reading using the principles we've learned. The primary objective here is to prompt you to start seeing these Western occult principles in the imagery of your tarot deck. We will begin with the three septenaries. If this is something you're interested in, then take notes. I don't have a neatly written up handout for you on this, though you can find one on my website under Holistic Tarot Study Guides. Then scroll down to the intermediate subsection where you'll find supplemental downloads, then find the three septenaries. The principle of the three septenaries, septenary being a key of 7, is generally attributed to Madame Helena Blavatsky in her text, The Key to Theosophy, published in 1889, which occultists in the early 19th century then applied to the major arcana of the tarot. In each of the three septenaries of the major arcana, the 7 theosophical principles espoused by Blavatsky are said to be found. In short, if I had to truncate each principle down to one word, it's self, soul, will, desire, force, astral as in the astral body, and material in that order up the keys. Each of these septenaries are also indicative of the path it takes for the occultist to accomplish the miracle of the one great thing. The fool's journey, a term we credit to Eden Gray, begins from key 1, the magician or magus, when that seeker realizes his or her own personal power and capabilities. This is also indicative of some sort of initiation. It is the resolve you make to begin the journey of taming your own mind. Then you do need to make an effort to pursue knowledge, study. Yeah, you've got to study, little Miss Hereditary Witch. I was born this way. In a past life, I was a shaman, so I don't need to do the work. It's only through dedicated study of the esoteric that we then achieve manifestation of our aspirations, key 3, the Empress, and through the 7 theosophical principles marking the milestones of our spiritual path in key 7, the Charioteer, acquires the internal power of the mind to control and drive the external forces of nature, both the dark and the light. To sum up, the first septenary is the study of the self. It's essentially an internalized process. The second septenary is an externalized process. It's now seeking beyond the self and journeying to understand the world around you. It's about understanding both the laws of nature and the laws of man. Again, the 7 theosophical principles play out in this second septenary, now applied to the path of reconciling with the collective, with the outer world beyond yourself. This is the occultist, an active, engaged practice of the learned physical and metaphysical laws you have come to achieve after successful pathworking of that first septenary. The second septenary is the severance and transformation of your physical body toward spiritual equilibrium, death to temperance, or in Crowley's deck, death to art. The third septenary represents apotheosis, which is the self ascending into the divine. It's union with God or becoming God, depending on the path you've chosen for yourself. The third septenary begins with the devil, because you cannot go any further in this path of yours until you've confronted your own demons. Then, once you've battled your demons, there's catharsis of the ego, the Tower card. Revelation and revolution comes after facing the shadow. The Judgment card, where we see Archangel Gabriel, is the point of no return, and from there ascent to the throne of God. The World card, and that throne is depicted per Christian mystic traditions as the face of a lion, ox, man, and eagle in flight. The notion that the nude human figure depicted at the center is a hermaphrodite is the Hermetic principle of gender, the divine feminine and divine masculine as one, which we'll get to later. When you look down the vertical of the three septenaries, you also see congruency. That congruency is really emphasized in the Rider-Waite-Smith tarot. For example, look at the lemniscate halo above the crown of both key 1, the magician, and key 8, strength, and then how it has transformed into the inverted pentagram above the crown of the beast in key 15, the devil. If key 1, as we had said, is the taming of the mind, then key 8 is the taming of the red lion, an alchemical metaphor for achieving materialized progress on your great work. It's an affirmation. Next, observe the silhouette motif from the high priestess to the hermit to the tower. There's the roundness and symbolism of the circle, again, from key 3, the Empress, to the Wheel of Fortune, down to the star. And check out the narrative arc from the crown of stars on the Empress to the 7-pointed star in key 17 of the 3rd septenary. The Hanged Man is just below the Hierophant, and his halo becomes the radiant sun. And on the patternicity goes. Madame Blavatsky's emphasis on the principles of 7 is also a principle emphasized in the Kybalion, a seminal text on Hermeticism. The 7 Hermetic principles are as follows. Mentalism, all is mind. Through your mind, pending initiation and subsequent dedicated cultivation by a witch or occultist, you're connected to the whole of the world and universe. The key of the Magician card reveals to us that the Magus can control that magnetic life force, which is the current that connects everything. The Magus's power comes from his or her ability to tap into that life force. The tarot in the hands of a Magus is in one sense a grimoire that reveals what those forces are and how to manipulate them. The second principle is that of correspondences. What is above corresponds with what is below, what is within corresponds with what is without. In other words, each tarot card is a placeholder in every occult system, or at least that's the Hermetic theory of correspondences. For example, linking the tarot and Kabbalah, the Ten of Pentacles connects the Magus to the Sephira Malkuth kingdom, the material world. This is the consciousness of the living world. This key is also tethered astrologically to Mercury in Virgo. That in itself links to the 4 seasons or time. So each card in the tarot is indicative of a point in time as well as a point in space. An occult reading of tarot can in fact be quite analytical. You have to know the systems if you are to identify the many layers of meaning a card in a reading reveals. Occult study of correspondence systems is a way for you to train connection to that magnetic force. The most advanced levels of witchcraft and occult study, I would argue, requires the mastery of correspondence systems. The third Hermetic principle is the principle of vibration. All in our universe is in constant change. Everything moves. This is so I Ching of the Kybalion, am I right, guys? Though if we're being real here, Hermetic philosophers got this idea from the ancient Greeks. Science has now confirmed for us that this is, yeah, true. Matter and energy are in constant motion or vibration. This is a principle that permeates throughout the reading of tarot. It's the underlying science a reader must remember when interpreting a tarot spread. That spread, that outline of fate and fortune, is not static. It is in constant movement. It is shifting and changing beneath the surface of the cards. The third Hermetic principle informs us that what is revealed in a tarot reading is never fixed, never static, and therefore through willpower and adjusting action, magical modifications, through our minds, mentalism, the first Hermetic principle, we can harness that collective life force and change anything. Energies are expressed in dualities, creating the tension of polarity in every unit. That's the crux of the fourth principle. Within everything that appears to be one, there is a yin and a yang, dark and light, high and low, soft and hard. Every one is in fact two, a polarity, and for any state of oneness or union, there must be an equilibrium struck between that polarity. So many cards in the tarot touch upon this principle of polarity and dualism. The occultist reading the tarot is going to be ever attentive to polarities that arise among the cards. Reading straight from the Kabbalion here, there are two sides to every truth, two aspects, two poles, and a pair of opposites in everything. The principle of rhythm. Everything in life is cyclic, and there is a measurable, discernible rhythm to the cycles of life. Change, that physical cycle of life and death, is inevitable. But in Hermetic philosophy, it probes further. Rhythm and cycles also pertains to our mental states. That's our mood swings, our changeable emotions, the flux within. The Kabbalion also talks about how we are required to experience pain if we are to ever achieve pleasure and fulfillment. It's the whole. What goes up must come down, and since we know that life is rhythmic and cyclic, the occult tarot reader can identify exactly which point of a cycle a seeker or querent is at. See, it's not that the tarot predicts the future, it's that life itself is cyclic, and the occultist will have manifested a deep understanding of those cycles, and therefore by using the tarot essentially as a map to figure out where in the tarot the querent is, the tarot reader can figure out where in the tarot the querent is going. It's not being predictive, it's just mastery of the natural rhythm of life. Another aspect of this fifth Hermetic principle of rhythm is expressed in the concept of harmonic resonance, which I did a whole video on if you're interested. Again, I'll link it as an extra optional thing for you to look at if you want to delve deeper into this topic. The sixth Hermetic principle is that of causation. Cause and effect is a universal law, physical and spiritual. There's no escaping the law of effect. The wise witch will know that and not be disillusioned into believing that she can unleash a force into the world and not experience blowback. Yet the clever witch will master the understanding of cause and effect and make it work to her advantage. You will see that the tarot can be rather plain spoken and blunt about cause and effect, that perhaps the negative effects we are experiencing and thus reading about are in fact caused by none other than ourselves. And finally, there is a divine masculine and a divine feminine within the one divine. So in the Kabbalion, the seventh Hermetic principle is the principle of gender. But we need to be thoughtful about how we understand this seventh principle. Even in the 1908 text, the principle of gender isn't saying the divine masculine and divine feminine are based on opposite sexes. Remember that word, divine. It's a spiritual polarity that is ever present within the singularity or monad. The God principle, however you want to define it, is both masculine and feminine. It is the figure of the hermaphrodite, the heavenly androgyny. It is the beginning and the end of the great work.